And now we're going to create the contact section. So we're going to come over here and click the blue circle to add a new section. I'm going to click regular, and I'm going to make it a 1-column row. And I'm going to turn this off because I want to add my background image first. So I'll come over here, click the gear icon, click background, click the image icon, click add background image. I'm going to click upload files, select files, and here's my background image right here. So I'll select that, click open. And when my image is done uploading, I'll come down here, click upload an image. And there you see it upload our background image right onto the web page. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to click use parallax effect. And next I want to add a color gradient overlay on top of this. So I'll come over here, click the color gradient overlay icon. And what I'm going to do is scroll down here, click add background gradient. And I'll choose my first color. And I have that over here. I'll go to my website folder. Oops, wrong page. Here it is right here. I'll highlight that, right click, copy. I'll close this, minimize that. Right click, paste. Click the green check mark. I'll choose the next color. Turn this off. Highlight it, right click, paste. Click the green check mark. Now you can see that it didn't add the color gradient overlay. That's because we have to add the CSS class first for it to work. So we'll click the Advanced tab, click CSS ID and Classes, come down to CSS class, and I'm going to type it this time instead of copying and paste it. And there you see, as soon as I'm done typing, it adds the color gradient overlay. So I'm going to save the change. Oh, before I do that, I'm going to add a divider right here. So I'll click Design, Dividers, and it's going to be a top divider. I'm going to come over here and choose the divider I want. And I'm going to choose the cloud divider right here. And you can see the cloud divider doesn't really look good. That's because I want to turn it upside down. So I'll scroll down here, divider flip, and I'll flip it vertically. There we go. Okay, I'm going to save the changes. And I'm going to save the page. Next, I'm going to delete this row because I'm feeling lazy again. And I'm going to come up here. I'm going to duplicate this row. And I'm going to click, hold, and drag this row down. And I'm going to let go right where I want it. There we go. I'm going to change the wording here. I'm going to go to Design, Heading Text, H4. And I'm going to leave the color and the font and everything the same. The only thing I want to change is the text shadow vertical length. I'm going to change that to 0.09. There we go. I'm going to save the changes. And I'm going to come down here and now I'm going to change the divider. And I'm going to leave the color the same. I just want to change the width. So I'll come to max width and I'm going to make it a little less wide. That looks good. Save the changes. Last, I'm going to change this text. I'm going to come up and click Design, Text, and again I'm going to leave the font and the color the same, the text size. I just want to change the text shadow. I'm going to change this to 0.14. That looks good. It's a little bit more pronounced, easier to see. Okay, I'm going to save the changes. One thing I don't like is this word contact is kind of up in my cloud divider. So I'm going to come over here to the row settings, click the gear icon, and I'm going to give it some padding so that it comes down away from the cloud a little bit. I'm going to click, hold, and slide to the right where I want it. That looks good. I'm going to save the changes, and I'm going to save the page. Now you can see it's kind of hard to work when your section is really small like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here to the bottom of the section, and when the cursor changes and looks like that, we're going to click, hold, and we're just going to start dragging the mouse downward. And we do that multiple times until we get the section a little bit wider, so it's easier to work with. There we go, that looks good. Okay. Now we'll add some text that'll be above our contact form. So we'll add a new row by clicking the green circle. I'm going to make this a 1-column row. And I'm going to add a text module. So I'll click text. And I'm going to move this module menu to the left side of the screen so it's easier for you guys to see. To do that, I'll just come up here and click this icon, and it snaps it to the left. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to delete this text. I'm going to add some lorem ipsum. So I'll come down here and I'll go to my website folder. And I'll copy this. Click this off. Right click, paste. I want to center line it. And I'm going to stylize it. So I'll go to text. And I'm going to choose Arial font. And I'll make it lightweight. Come down here and I'm going to change the color to white. I'm going to increase the text size by 2 pixels. And right here, I want to add some space between the 2 lines. So I'll come to text line height, and I'm going to increase it by 1. And you can see it adds some space there. That looks good. Now what I want to do is I want to move my text closer to the title text up here. So I'll come over to spacing, and where it says top margin, I'm just going to click and drag to the left, and you can see it moves the text up as I drag. That looks good. I'm going to save the changes. And I'm going to save the page just to be safe here. Okay, that's good. Now let's add the contact form. So come up here and click the gray circle to add the contact module. And I'll type contact. Click contact form. And this is Divi's default contact form. It's pretty nice. You have a name field, email address, message. Down here you have a CAPTCHA. It's kind of hard to see because it's dark gray. And you have a submit button. So if I come over here, I can give my contact form a title. See, it shows up over here as I type. I'm just going to leave it blank though. Here's success message. Whenever anybody fills out your contact form and they hit the submit button, a success message shows up right here. Divi's default success message is thanks for contacting us. Right here you can type in a custom success message. So I'm going to create a custom one. There we go. Submit button, you can change the text of the submit button. Say I want to say send, I could do that. I'm going to leave it default. If you ever want to undo anything, you just come up here and click the undo icon. And it takes it back to the default. Okay. Email. This is where you put in your email address where you want all your messages to be sent to. You want to make sure you spell this correctly. And by the way, I always recommend that you test your contact form before you take your website live and make sure you're getting your messages from the contact form. So I'll put in my email address here. Make sure you spell your email address correctly. That's good. Message pattern, I don't really use this. If you ever get stuck and you're not sure what any of these are, you just come up and click the question mark and it'll give you an explanation. I'm just going to leave it blank for default because I don't use it. Elements. Here's where you can turn off the CAPTCHA if you don't want it. So if I click this button, you can see the CAPTCHA disappears. I want the CAPTCHA because it helps to cut down on spam messages from spam bots. So I'm going to leave it on. Redirect is really cool. Let's say, I'm going to click this button on here. Let's say you have a thank you page set up that you created for your website. What this does is you can put in the URL of your thank you page, and whenever someone fills all this out and then clicks submit, they'll be automatically redirected to your thank you page. It's kind of neat. I don't have one, so I'm just going to turn this off. Background. You can change the background color of the contact form. So I'm going to come up here, click next to the name field, your icon. Here you can change the title of the name field, which is right here. Let's say I want this to say first name. You see it appears as I type. I'm just going to leave it like it was though. Field options. You can create, you can change the input field, the type of it, email field. You can change it to a text area. I could change it to select drop down if I wanted. I don't know why you would, but you can if you want to. I'm going to make it default. You could create it so that they have to type a minimum number of characters before they can submit, or maximum they can only type a certain number of characters before they submit. Just by doing that. Allowed symbols. Let's say you only want to allow letters since it's a name field. You don't want them to be able to type any numbers or symbols. You could do that. Just going to keep it like it is though. If you don't want it to be a required field, you just click this button and now they are not required to fill out their name before they hit submit. I want them to be required to do that though. So let me just show you something real quick. You pretty much get all the same options for each of these fields. Let's say, see conditional logic. If I click this, enable it. Conditional logic is kind of like you can set rules, parameters. So let's say I want it so that when they fill out the message field, if it does not contain, you know, letters, then it won't go through when they submit the button. It's kind of complex. I'm not going to go into depth with that. I'm not going to use it, so I'll just click no. But you can do some pretty cool stuff with conditional logic. So I'll come back here. Message, same thing. You get all the same options. Now let me show you how you can style the contact form. We'll go to Design, Fields, and you can see Divi gives you tons of options to stylize your contact form here. Fields background color, you can change that. Changes the color of the fields, obviously. One cool thing you do is you can make it white. Come in here, and this is the opacity slider. If I click this, hold it, and then slide down, you can see the fields become more transparent. So you could do that, and then they would put in their name here, just like that. I'm going to leave it default, so I'll undo it. Fields text color, you could change these, each of the text in the fields here. Change it to red, blue, purple if you wanted to. I'll just leave it default. Focus fields, focus background color, you could change that. Focus fields text color. And if you're not sure what that is, clicks into an input field, it becomes focused. So when I click here, it changes to the color that I designated it. It's kind of cool. Just gonna leave it default here. Same thing with the text color. It'll change. So if I make it purple, it'll change when I click here. See it change to purple. It's kind of neat. You can change the margin, the padding, the font. If I wanted to change the font, I could change it to Arial if I wanted to. Not going to though. Font style, I can make all these capitals if I wanted to. just like that. Change the text size. I can make it smaller or larger. Could add a text shadow if I wanted to. Okay. So now I'm going to go down to, you could change stylized text, the title text. Captcha text, here I can change the color of the captcha text so I can see it much more clearly. There's actually an equal sign here. It doesn't change the color of the equal sign. But don't worry, because in a few seconds I'm going to show you how to change the entire captcha text color. So I'll just undo this. You could change the text size, letter spacing. You could add a text shadow to the captcha. I'm going to go to button and I'm going to stylize the button here. So I'll click yes. And I'll come down here. I'm going to change the button text color to white. I'm not going to add a background color. If I wanted to, I could. By the way, if you click these three dots next to the color palette, it opens up and shows you a much larger color palette. Gives you much more colors to choose from. So I could choose purple, pink, whatever you want. Button border width, I'll just leave that like it is. Button border color, I do want to change this. What I want to do is, I want to have it so that when they hover over the button, this white border here changes color. So I'm going to, on default, I want it to be white, of course. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click the hover icon. And now I can choose, when I click hover, I can choose what color I want the border to be when they hover over it. So I'm going to make it like a bluish green. There we go. Click the green check mark. Button border radius. By the way, if I click the default, you can see it'll be white, and then when they hover, it'll be greenish. Button border radius, I'm going to increase the corners, make it more round. There we go. I'm not going to show a button icon since this will change color when they hover over it. They'll know it's a button. I am going to give the button text a shadow. Actually, I'll give it this one. That looks good. And let me see here. And I'll give the button a box shadow as well. There we go. Everything there looks good. Okay. Next thing I want to do is I want to round the corners on these text fields. I don't want sharp corners like that. So I'll come down the border. And right here I'm just going to increase it. And you can see it rounded the corners a bit. That looks good. I don't want any animation. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to change the color of the entire captcha text. So we're going to click the Advanced field, CSS ID and Classes. And you can see it already has a CSS ID here. I'm going to change this. So I'm going to come down to my website folder here. And by the way, I'm going to put this CSS in the description of the video. So all you have to do is copy and paste it. And we'll go to Custom CSS here. White captcha text. So here's the CSS ID. Okay, that's perfect. It's already set that. So what we need to do is custom CSS. I'm going to copy this. I'll close this. Close this as well. I'm going to click custom CSS. I'm going to scroll down here to where it says captcha text. Right click and then paste. Oops. I'll have to Control V. And there you see it changes everything to white. Okay. One more thing I want to do is I want to change the success message. You can't see it until we hit some button. I'll show you after we're done. By default, the success message it's like a dark gray color when it shows up, which, as you know, is not going to look too well on this background. So I want to change that success message color to white, and I want to style it a little bit. So I'm going to go back here to CSS ID and Classes. And actually, no, I'm not going to go there. I'll show you a different way. So I'm going to save the changes here. And we'll save the page. And I'm going to go ahead and exit the Visual Builder. And I'm going to come back here and I'm going to go to the dashboard. And if I scroll down here to where it says Divi, click Theme Options. And then I'm going to scroll down here to the bottom. And here you can add custom CSS. You can see I already have some custom CSS here. So I'm going to click in here, skip 2 lines, and I'm going to provide the custom CSS for you to do this in the video description. So I'm going to go back to my website folder. And right here it says white thank you message text. I'm going to click that. And here's the CSS I'm going to provide for you. All you have to do is copy it. I'll close this. Come down here, right click and paste. And then you want to come down and click the Save Changes button. You'll see a green check mark. I'll come back up here, go back to the dashboard. We'll go back to the home page. I'm going to refresh the home page. Now I'll come back down here. I'm going to type in some fake information here. Fill out the CAPTCHA. And if I hover over this button, you can see the border changes color just like we created. And I'll click Submit. And now you can see our thank you message is white and it's centered. It's also 16 pixels. I go back here, go to Divi Theme Options. You can see, yep, 16 pixels. This is the color white and centered. This is the CSS styles we gave it. Beautiful. Looks good. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and enable the Visual Builder. And I'll refresh the page so our contact form comes back. Scroll down here. And I'll save the page. Okay, one thing I noticed about this background image is that you can't really see Adam down here. He's kind of, most of his body's cut off here. I actually have the same background image. It's just a different size for the contact page that we're going to build later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use that background image for this contact section as well. So I'll come up here to the gear icon and I'll go to background and I'll trash this one. I'll click add background image. I'll click upload files, select files, and I'm going to go over here to pages, contact page, images, and here's the background image for the contact page. I'm going to go ahead and use this one. And I'll click upload an image. There we go. Now, let me see here. I'm going to save this. And that's much better. Now you can see Adam, much more of Adam. And if we do our parallax scrolling, I like how God and the angels look like they're coming out of the clouds when you scroll down. I'm going to go ahead and save the page. And since I'm not using the other background image, I'll go back in here. Background. Click the gear icon and I'll go ahead and delete this old image by clicking delete permanently. And this will delete it from my media library. And there we go. Close that. And I'm going to float this again. So I'll click here. Bring this down here. Save the changes. And I'll save the page. Perfect.